Hello, NHL fans. Today I'm going to take a look at the Stanley Cup Playoff Bracket Challenge for the 2022 Stanley Cup Playoffs. So, without further ado, I'm going to try and do this as least biased as possible and take my time and make a realistic pick and approach to this, because at the end of the day, we're really not going to know who the Stanley Cup champion is. I mean, like, on paper, of course, there's going to be a couple that should make it, but I mean, that usually doesn't happen. There's some strong teams, there's some weak teams, so we're going to go through this, take our time, and try and make the most reasonable pick we can. So, without further ado, let's start up here in the top corner with Florida and Washington. So right off the bat, Florida's the President's Choice winners. They're a solid team. They got excellent depth, great point scorers in the team. Even though they're the President's Choice winners and, many people can agree that they're hoping for a deep playoff push with them, which I'm personally hoping for as well. They haven't had very many playoff pushes in, recent history. So that is something to take into consideration. But with Washington, however, they're a seed and they have had good playoff runs in the past. I mean, 2017 Stanley Cup champions, but in my opinion, I feel like they're more on the playoff push decline in recent years. Still an excellent team. They can still absolutely produce in the playoffs, and there is a chance they could win. But with the odds this season, I'm going to pick the Florida Panthers. I'm pretty sure with this bracket challenge, you have to wait till you pick all of them before you choose how many games. So we'll do that after. So for this round between Florida and Washington, I'm going to say the Florida Panthers are going to take this. So now, between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Tampa Bay Lightning, this one, I mean, there's all the jokes about the Maple Leafs and, they're going to be eliminated in the first round again. Anything's possible. But, we're looking at these two teams here. They're both very, very strong teams this season. Toronto Maple Leafs are having an excellent season. Really, really good team. Doing great. Austin Matthews doing insane, goal-scoring machine. Everyone knows that. And then you have the Tampa Bay Lightning. They're insane. They're such a good team, and it's ridiculous. So how are you gonna match this? This is a hard series. But if you look at it in terms of playoff perspective, Toronto obviously hasn't had the best playoff luck in a while, and Tampa Bay is just so experienced with the playoffs. Two back-to-back cups. And I feel like with that playoff experience, they are still going to be able to take the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I'm really sorry, Toronto fans. I'm Canadian, and I really like seeing Canadian teams make it far. But I really cannot see the Maple Leafs being Tampa Bay Lightning in the first round. The Tampa Bay is too experienced in the playoffs. So we move down to Carolina versus Boston, and this is kind of an interesting series because over the past few years, Boston has been the more powerful team compared to Carolina. But this year, Carolina's depth is just really, really, really good. And with Boston, I feel like they've been really strong over this past decade, but I feel like, their core is getting a little old and their depth isn't as strong as it used to be. I still feel like this is going to be a really, really close series. But, I honestly don't know. I feel like Carolina's really hungry for revenge because you got Frederick Anderson who played for the Maple Leafs, so obviously he wants to win against Boston. And I honestly just feel like Carolina is a stronger team this year, so I'm going to give this to Carolina. And for the final first round of the Eastern Conference, we have the New York Rangers versus the Pittsburgh Penguins. And, geez, I'm finding this so tough. I don't know, this could go either way. It really could, because the Rangers, they've got pretty good depth. They've had a pretty good season. Shesterkin, I feel like he could be an excellent asset to a playoff push, but I just don't know. Pittsburgh is just their playoff experience. This is what I'm basing it off of, the playoff experience, because teams could have excellent seasons and just completely blow the playoffs. Look at the Tampa Bay Lightning in 2019. Got swept by Columbus, so you have no idea. I'm basing this all off of playoff experience. I really don't know. New York's great. Pittsburgh is solid. I would say this is probably one of the closest matchups that we have in the Eastern Conference. But with all that being said, I am going to give it to Pittsburgh. So now here is where we select the number of games So I think between the Florida Panthers and Washington Capitals series, I think Florida's going to take this in 6 games, just because I think the Capitals are going to make it difficult for Florida, but I feel like Florida is just such a strong team that they're going to be able to get through and win within 6 games. I could see it being 5, but I feel like Washington is going to make it a little difficult, but not difficult enough for it to be 7. So Toronto Maple Leafs versus Tampa Bay Lightning. This one, I feel like Tampa is also going to take this in 6 games, because I feel like the Maple Leafs are definitely going to make it difficult, but I feel like Tampa is just going to win fairly easily. Carolina versus Boston. Like I was saying earlier, I feel like it's going to be a really tight series, because I mean everyone knows the Bruins. They're going to fight as hard as they possibly can to win in the playoffs, but I feel like Carolina's still stronger than Boston, but I feel like Boston is not going to take anything back from that. I feel like they're going to fight as hard as they can. So I'm going to say, regardless of who wins, this is going to be a Game 7 series. Boston could easily win. Carolina could easily win. Like, the odds of this happening, in my opinion, is 50-50, but I'm going to give it to Carolina in 7 games. And the Pittsburgh Penguins versus New York Rangers, I feel pretty much the exact same thing. I feel like this is going to be a super tight series. Like, both teams are going to fight really hard for this. You know, New York Rangers doesn't have as much playoff experience in the past, but I feel like they're a really solid team, and they're really strong, and they're going to fight really hard for this. So I feel like this is going to be Penguins in 7. Okay, so moving on to the Western Conference. Colorado versus Nashville. Well, I mean, everyone looking at Colorado recently, Colorado is an insane team, insane depth. They got young star players rising all the time. It's a great team, and you know, just like the Florida Panthers, many people are going to be seeing Colorado having a really deep playoff push this year, and I can 100% agree with that. You know, Nashville's great. They're having an excellent season. I mean, Roman Josi, my goodness. I mean, he's a defenseman, and he's leading the Nashville Predators franchise history in most points in a season. Like, that is absolutely insane. And UC Soros, I mean, what a season that guy's had. And I could continue on about all the players in Nashville. Like, there's lots of players in Nashville that are having an excellent season, but I just think that Colorado is just so damn good that they're going to have to win. I mean, they're going to have to. And Minnesota and St. Louis, this is an interesting one, because if you've been following the season, I find in a lot of situations there's been Minnesota versus St. Louis, and St. Louis has come on top quite a few times. But I don't know, like, these are both really good. They got great depth and very strong players, good goaltending. I mean, Minnesota's got Fleury now, which could definitely help. I mean, he's got lots of playoff experience regardless of his age. This is a really tough one, because like, if I'm looking at the Winter Classics and the outdoor games, like, St. Louis was, you know, they were winning. But I mean, in a playoff atmosphere, it's going to be completely different, because it means so much. See, this, I have no idea. This is my kryptonite here. I could see it being 50-50 between Minnesota and St. Louis, but I am going to give it to Minnesota. I feel like Minnesota is going to really try hard and get the W over St. Louis. So, continuing on to Calgary versus Dallas. I mean, what a season, Calgary. Like, my goodness. Insane goaltending, insane depth. I mean, Johnny Gaudreau, Matthew Tkachuk are absolutely eating the other teams. It's ridiculous. It's great defensive core, good depth, just overall really solid team. They've done great this year. And Dallas, I mean, most people could argue here that Dallas is probably the lowest on all the teams that are on this Stanley Cup bracket right now. They're, you know, that whole division, it was a very close between the bottom teams. And, you know, Dallas is still a good team. They made it to the Stanley Cup final in 2020. They still have that playoff experience. They're still quite good, but I really feel like Calgary is going to take this over Dallas quite easily, in my opinion. I feel like Calgary is just really hot right now. Really good team. Now, Edmonton and Lakers. This is an interesting one. I think this one's going to be quite a good series, in my opinion. I feel like this is going to be really fun to watch. But with that being said, I honestly have no idea how it's going to go. I really have no idea who's going to win. This could honestly go either way. And this is the fun with the NHL bracket. I mean, honestly, like, I wouldn't be surprised if I got every single one of these wrong right now. But Edmonton, obviously they got the McDavid Draisaitl combo. Great pair. Edmonton's depth is not the best. I mean, Mike Smith has been really good at the end of the season with 9 or 10 wins, I think, after he's turned 40, which is really, really impressive. But Edmonton's depth isn't the best, we shall say. I mean, they're a great team, good, solid team. But Lakers, on the other end, depth is really good there, too. I mean, they got good goaltending, good defensive core, good forwards. I mean, this series could just go either way again. But I think if I chose Calgary, you'd want to see a Battle of Alberta in the second round. That would be pretty sick. I'm going to give it to Edmonton just because I really want to see the Battle of Alberta, but with the Edmonton-Los Angeles series, I think that could go either way. I think the Kings have just as good of a chance that Edmonton does. So now to pick the number of games, I'm going to say the Colorado Avalanche are going to beat the Nashville Predators in 5 games just because I feel like Colorado is just so strong. They're just going to go in there and absolutely hammer until everyone meets their demise. I feel like Colorado's going to have a deep push this year. Minnesota Wild versus St. Louis Blues. I think this is going to be an insane series. I think everyone's going to be fighting for the blood to the death. It's going to be insane, really, really tight series. I think Minnesota's going to take this in 7 games. Calgary versus Dallas. I think Calgary may have a couple tough games, but I really don't think it's going to be that hard for them to beat Dallas. So I'm going to say 6 games for Calgary. I feel like Dallas may make it difficult for them. I'd say Calgary may be able to do it in 5, but I'm going to say 6. And Edmonton versus Los Angeles Kings. This whole thing, this is just a guessing game for me. I honestly have no idea how this series is going to go. Edmonton could get swept. Kings could get swept. It could go to Game 7. I honestly have no idea. I personally think it's going to be a pretty close series. I'm going to say Edmonton in 7. Now, let's go back over to the Eastern Conference again. So, Battle of Florida, that's cool. Honestly, I have no idea how this is going to go. I mean, like we said earlier about the Tampa Bay's playoff experience, I'm sure a lot of people that aren't Tampa fans are probably a little fed up of Tampa getting so far and winning, but I hate to say it, I really feel like Tampa's going to take this series. I mean, their playoff experience is just so good. Their team is so good. It doesn't matter how good Florida is. I just feel like Tampa is going to win. I want Florida to win, but I feel like if this was the series that ended up happening, I feel like Tampa would be the stronger force here. So I'm going to say Tampa Bay Lightning for this series, and I'm really sorry, Florida Panthers fans, but I just feel like if Tampa's going to push, they're going to do it again. They still have the same core, the same depth. They haven't really made a whole lot of changes. They still have those strong factors. They got Vasilevsky, Kucherov. They got all these people that are still really good. And Carolina versus Pittsburgh, I'm not sure. This series could go either way, and it's going to be like that for a lot of them. It really could go either way, and this is why the bracket challenge is so hard to guess, because it could. One team could just suck. They could be doing great, but then all of a sudden playoffs, oh, whoops, now we're doing bad. It just happens. It sucks, but it happens, and I really don't know. If I'm going to do it in terms of odds and playoff experience and stuff, I really feel like Pittsburgh is going to come up on top here. Carolina is going to make it really difficult for them, but I still feel like Pittsburgh in the playoffs is just something completely different and something that can push its way through. Now over to Colorado versus Minnesota. This is an interesting one, and I feel like it's something that may frustrate a lot of people. But if you've been looking at the past few games, Minnesota has been doing really good against Colorado, really good. And I'm almost positive it's been like that most of the season too. Colorado's been doing really good, but when they've been going against Minnesota, I feel like they've been having a really tough time, regardless if they won or lost. I feel like this series, if it were to happen, would be a really, really good series, really fun to watch, really intense. But honestly, I think Colorado's going to scrape and claw as much as they can and battle. I really feel like Minnesota would be able to come on top of this series, and I can't believe I'm saying that. I don't know. I'm feeling it. I don't know why. I really don't know. I feel like it's going to be a really, really close series, though. Now, Calgary versus Edmonton. I'm going to be completely honest. If this series happened, I feel like Calgary would absolutely obliterate Edmonton. I feel like, without a doubt, Calgary would win. And the reason I'm saying that is just because Calgary has been really, really, really good this year. And I feel like if going back to the Edmonton versus LA series, I feel like Edmonton would just scrape past and barely make it even if they did win. So I'm going to give that to Calgary without a doubt. I feel like Calgary would do really good against Edmonton. Now, Calgary versus Minnesota. This is a tough one. This is a really, really tough one. They're both excellent teams. You know, they're both would have had a good fight by now. I don't know why. I'm feeling a pretty deep Calgary push this year. I really am. I feel like Calgary's going to take this over Minnesota. Seriously. Jeez, I feel like a nut job right now. People are going to hate me for this. But, you know, go Canada. Go Canadian team. And Tampa versus Pittsburgh. With everything going on in this bracket so far, I mean, like, what are the odds of Pittsburgh actually making it through? I don't even know. But the odds of Tampa making it through are a lot higher than Pittsburgh making it through. So I feel like if it was a Tampa versus Pittsburgh final, I feel like Tampa would most certainly be able to win that. So it would bring it back to a Calgary versus Tampa Stanley Cup final. I just hope Calgary would win, honestly. I really hope Calgary would win. I'm not even a Flames fan. I'm going to be completely honest. I'm a Boston Bruins fan. And I don't know. Jeez. Tampa for the three-piece or Calgary for the win for Canada in God knows how many years. I can't even remember. Who would win that? Calgary want to get their revenge so bad. It's not even fit. If you guys know what year I'm talking about. You know what? I'm giving it to Calgary. Why not? Why not? The total goals scored in the final series. Oh my god, I have no idea. That's nauseating. I don't even know what to say about that. Jeez, how are people even supposed to get this right? If someone actually guesses this right, that's absolutely ridiculous. Like this, how are you supposed to get this right? The odds of everything. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a friggin' Toronto versus Dallas final, for God's sakes, at the rate I'm going. Enter the total goals in this final series, so it's referring to the Stanley Cup final. I mean, if it were Calgary versus Tampa, I'd say it would go to Game 7. So I'm going to say 21 goals. Wow, what an absolute disaster. Oh boy, I wonder what everyone's going to think about this. Well, there you have it, guys. That's my Stanley Cup playoff bracket challenge for 2022 Stanley Cup playoffs. If I actually get a single thing right on this, I'd be surprised, honestly, but that's what I think it's going to be, and there we go. That's it. Thanks, guys.